Hello and welcome to TEC Bike Parts. Today we're going to be showing you how to install our various different types of mirrors on various different types of bikes, because all the fittings are very slightly different, and you may have to do small modifications or changes to fit certain different models. We're showing you on a couple of the most popular bikes that we do, Royal Enfield and Triumph, but we will go through all the other different variations you get on different sorts of motorcycles and how to get through a few of the pitfalls that people keep ringing us up about. So we'll get started and we'll show you first of all how to change bar mounted mirrors on this bike here. So bar mounted mirrors, basically they fall into two popular sizes and two popular types of thread. What I mean by that is these mirrors on here are an M10 thread. Now, the left-hand mirror is a right-hand thread, but the right-hand mirror is a left-hand thread. Now, this is mostly common on Yamaha motorcycles, but one or two other bikes are starting to adopt it now, and this Royal Enfield's adopted it as well. So what you have to do on the right-hand side is you've got to screw it clockwise to unscrew it. I've already loosened this one off. So basically, you've taken the standard mirror off there. Now, you've got obviously an M10 hole on this one. Some smaller bikes tend to use M8 bolts, but the industry is basically moving over to M10 as pretty much as the standard now. So to fit the standard one of our bar type mirrors, now this is our track mirror we call it, which is an all aluminium CNC mirror, the arms and everything all mirror. It's got a chrome plated part here. These are obviously very, very light and nicely finished. Now, you need to fit a fitting on here to mount the mirror onto. Now, this is the fitting you get in the kit. It has a little blanket cover on the top, and it's an offset fitting, which means you can mount it that way, or you can mount it that way, depending on what's best for clearance of maybe components that are on here, such as reservoirs for the master cylinder, or whatever. Every bike's different, so it gives you a bit of versatility being able to mount it here forward or rear. Now in the kit you get M8 and M8 fixings in right and left hand thread, enough to do both mirrors. So what you need to do is open your kit, and you get, first of all, on this one we're going to need an M10 left-hand thread to go in here, and obviously it'll be a right-hand thread on there. Now, on some bikes you find that the threads aren't deep enough in here to get the bolt in. Now, you can either just take a little hacksaw and cut this down a little bit, this bolt. Obviously, with being universal, we'll make them slightly longer, because on some bikes the thread doesn't start till further down the hole. But seeing you have a problem where it won't screw down and tighten up, which is what we've had on some Triumphs, I don't think it's going to be an issue on this. What you can do is ask us for some spacer washers, spacer tubes, sorry, which fit in between there. Now that just takes it up. If you don't want to cut the thread, I mean, it's easy enough to just cut the threads with the hacksaw, but a lot of people haven't got the facility or a hacksaw or whatever to do that. So just ask us for a couple of little spacers, and we can give you those free of charge. So I'll just put that on and roughly, and we'll show you. Now, in the kit, it's actually supplied with Allen keys, so you should really need no tools to fit these. Everything you need is basically in the kit. So just put it on loosely then now. I'm taking these mirrors back off again, but what I would always suggest is when you're fitting mirrors on a bike, use Loctite on everything. Otherwise they can work loose and a bit will drop off, and you'll be ringing me up, do you have a spare mirror head or whatever. Now, once you've tightened that up, there's a little blanket plug that goes on there, nice and neat, hides the bolt. Now, it comes with a little adapter here and a small bolt that fits into there. Obviously, that can fit either way as well. And the mirror swivel fits into that. Now, as you can see, you can swivel this backwards and forwards, you can swivel it up and down. The mirror head swivels, and you've obviously got the option of turning that backwards and forwards, or even the other way around. So they're very versatile where you can mount the mirrors. Now, what you find on some bikes where the mirror mount is mounted quite far inboard, which I think probably this one is, you may find that you want the mirror further out slightly. Now we do a little gizmo that can accommodate this. It's called a mirror extender, and obviously you just use your left hand M10 bolt in there, and that offsets the mirror. And as you can see, it gives you a good range of adjustment. You can either mount it forward, backwards, further out, further in. So that gives you about a 30mm offset, and that normally cures any issue problems that you've got with the bars sticking out. Another reason you may need these is on Triumph T100 and T120s. They have an unusual mirror fitting, and it has caused a bit of problem for people in the past. I'll just show you how that works in a moment. This is a switchgear clamp off a T100. Now, basically the same on a T120, slightly thinner here. But what they have is they've got bolt-through mirrors. There's actually a male thread on the end of the mirror in a stepped end, and it fits in there, and you put a nut on the bottom. Now, this is an old-fashioned method of fixing mirrors, and basically nobody in the industry uses this method anymore. But what you can do is you can use our mirror extenders and just use an M8 bolt and washer, and you can use it as a bolt-through method. And if you use an anti-shake washer between them, it's actually very rigid. There is various mirror adapters you can get for these, but we've found that they haven't been very successful in our experience, and that they tend to work loose. But this, with an anti-shake washer and a nylock nut on the bottom, is really solid. And as you can see, it gives you the flexibility to mount the mirror right through 360 degrees there, and also it gives you the ability to move the mirror outwards, which was a big problem on the early T100s, that this clamps off, because the standard mirrors were too short and everybody used to complain all you could see was your arm. So using this, you can get your mirror offset. You can't use this for the standard mirrors, only aftermarket mirrors, but it does work really well. Right, whilst we're talking about adapters for mirrors, we do also make an adapter where you can mount this type of mirror, the Boss type mirror, onto fairings and other panels where you need to mount it on a flat surface. So we've made these fairing mirror adapters with a slotted hole that fit most standard fairing mountings. And you can simply mount that on the outside of the fairing. It comes with an adapter, and you can mount it on a swivel, so it's effectively like mounted onto the handlebars. And that makes these type of bar mirrors quite versatile for use on fairings, because fairings do tend to have fairly long mirrors to clear your shoulders or whatever. So again, that's just a handy little thing if you've got a bike with a fairing on. Right, bar end mirrors. Now this can be a bit more complex on how these fit on. We do two main types of bar end mirrors. We do what we call the clamp-on type, hence it clamps onto a tube, either clamps onto the bar or a bar end adapter that goes in, or the type that goes into the end of the bar and spreads out. Now this has a fitting like that as well. Now the spread type come with two different sizes, one for standard steel bars with a thin wall, and one for thick wall aluminium bars, which is a smaller, obviously, size to go in there. Now that fits probably about 95% of different handlebars. We have seen some very thick wall aluminium bars, and all you have to do there is just put a drill up to the size of the smaller adapter. But it's only a certain brand of bar that we found that works on. So you need to take your end cap off. Again, various bikes have various different types. 99% tend to be held on with just an Allen bolt at the end. Now, once you take it off, you'll find again that various different manufacturers have a different fitting on the end. Sometimes they have a spreading system, and sometimes they have a welded in plug in the end of the bar. Sometimes the plug extends, sometimes it's inside. Now on this Royal Enfield, I don't know if you can see very well, but it's got a little stepped ridge 50-50. Now this is to stop the the cap rotating and unscrewing itself. But it's also handy for mounting bar ends, because you can utilise this to stop the bar end rotating and coming loose. And the way we do that, you see, this is the what's supplied as a bar end, but if you strip it down, and you've got this end, and what we do is, I don't know if you can see there by the black paint that's off, I've filed half of that flat. You use a junior hacksaw, just a file or whatever, and file it down so that locates on there, and once the bolt's in, this cannot rotate once it's all tightened up, and that makes for a much better fitting. Now the bar end clamp on ones are designed for inch and 7/8 bars, so they cover virtually all applications. Quite a few Harley Davidsons and Triumphs use 1-inch bars, the T100 and the T120 for example. If you're using it on 7/8, but if you don't use it on inch bars, you normally don't need an adapter, because this is inch clamps on if you're using the bar end weight. Or if you're using it on 7/8, you'll need to use the clamp. So basically all you do is screw this on now. You get the screw. So using the long screw out of the adapter through the bar end, let me put this in here. It's best if you have the split in the adapter next to the bolt, and we just pop that through there. Now again, use Loctite on this thread. I'm not going to today because this is coming back off again, but just wind that on through there and just make sure it locates on the slot that we've filed in there. And if you've done it properly, this should never come loose once you've put some Loctite on as well. There's nothing more annoying than mirrors coming loose when you're riding. Again, apply some Loctite to this bolt and nip it up approximately where you want it. And again, Loctite on this one here. You don't want to be losing anything as you're riding down the road. Now you just clamp this up onto the adapter. And make sure it's pushed towards the end and it's not interfering with the throttle at all. Don't go crazy, just get it to a point where you're happy that everything's nipped up. You see, it's important to use Loctite. Now if you're using the spreader inside the bar type, what you can do sometimes is if it's against the plain handlebar, you can sometimes cut a notch in the end so it locates with the bar or whatever. There's normally some way you can stop this from rotating, but if you can't, in any case, always apply plenty of Loctite and apply it on these spreaders so they're locked together and on the threader here, because I have had people putting crazy amount of tension on here to try and stop it from turning, and what happens then is if you over tighten it, you're going to strip this thread obviously. But just apply some Loctite on everything here, and that is normally enough to stop it rotating. Obviously before you put this in, you need to put the mirror on with the correct adapter for it. Right, that covers this type onto an end cap. Now, if you're mounting this type directly on the handlebars, we're going to cover that again in a moment. And if we mount this type on which goes more in the end of the bar, you need to unscrew this Allen screw here. And as you do, you'll find inside there's another Allen key inside, which has the same bolt that goes through to a spreader mechanism. So it's basically the same sort of thing. Again, use lots of Loctite on it. Loctite on this bolt. Once you get it the position where you want it, just nip it all up, then you can nip this up on the back here as well. If you don't, I'm guarantee it'll vibrate and drop off. You must use Loctite on them. Right, now, fitting bar ends onto Triumphs. Now these are slightly different. Other bikes use this method as well, but this is a new method for Triumph. They've just started this on the liquid cooled models, doing it this way, where they actually supply dished type bar end caps, and you've actually got a bit of you can see the end of the bar is quite specialised, You know, it has got a slot away. This bike's actually got heated grips on, and this is what this slot here is utilised for the wire. So the bars on Triumphs are specialised for that reason, and they have this threaded insert in the end. So once you've removed the end cap, you literally, these are exactly the same fitting as Triumph do. You need to use your adapter on there. Just get the right one. And you see it literally clamps on there. I'll just nip that up and show you what we're doing. Right. If you're doing this on the throttle side, always make sure that the throttle isn't being interrupted with you. You don't have it pushed in too far. Again, always make sure you use Loctite on all these bolts. Again, I'm taking this back off again, so we're not going to bother with that at the moment. Now, this is where it gets interesting. When you buy a set of these off Triumph at £80 each, you don't get the end caps with them. This is a proper Triumph end cap that fits on the end like that. These are £25 a pair, and you can get them in various different sizes and colours or whatever. But you can see they're basically just a disc. Now, what you can do to save yourself some money is, you see that part on the end is exactly the same. All you need to do is cut this part off here. So if you cut with a hacksaw all the way around carefully, or if you know somebody with a lathe and you've got access to that, use a parting off tool. But it doesn't really matter, it can be quite rough because you don't see it when it's on. So I'll just show you that now. Yeah, so if you cut down there, so basically the end is the same as what you've got there. And then you can use it as a finisher, because that's all it is, just a finisher at the end. Again, use plenty of Loctite on here. Now, on various different applications, you've got to be careful when you tighten this up. On Thruxtons in particular, it can push the mirror against the throttle, so if you over tighten it. So basically, you tighten it up to a point where it's pushing the mirror to a point where it's just not crushing the rubber like that. I'll show you with the genuine Triumph ends first. You may just want to buy these, and you don't have to mess on cutting them down. But I mean, at £25 plus VAT a pair, it's quite expensive for a couple of little aluminium discs. But they do them in funky colours. Then you can move the mirror once you've got this tight the way you want it. You can move the mirror out so it's flush against the bar end, and you can just clamp it up there. You see, you've got to be very careful that when you do the throttle side, that the throttle returns freely. It doesn't interfere with it. Again, if you're fitting these on a bike that has end covered handlebar grips, you're going to need to carefully cut out the rubber at the end of the grip. And again, you have to be careful on the throttle side that you don't interfere with the action of the throttle, especially if it's got a capped plastic sleeve inside. You're going to need to carefully cut that off with a hacksaw or whatever. But that's it. It's fairly basic, fairly straightforward. It's just the added complexity of these little caps that Triumph have brought into the equation. But you can see they're really neat on there now, and they're a fraction of the price of the genuine Triumph ones. And again, if you use Loctite on here and tighten it up, they give, for all they're small, unlike the Triumph, which have plastic inserts in them, they're a much neater mirror. They're all aluminium, but you get very good visibility out of them, and they're placed exactly where they don't get any obstruction from your arm or whatever, especially if you've got wide bars on. And they're great for filtering through traffic. They don't tend to stick out too much. So that's basically covers all the mirrors that we do. On some of the early Triumph Thruxtons, they only had a threaded end in the end here. And if you use the insert in, there's nothing to stop it from turning. Again, if you use the anti-shake washer trick we showed you on the handlebar mounted mirrors, between the end cap and the end of the clip-on, that tends to stop them spinning around when you're using them. Again, plenty of Loctite on them, and you should have no problem. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.